The story begins in silence, not the silence of an empty room, but the silence that hangs before a revelation so powerful it can rewrite everything we think we know. For centuries, travelers, scholars, and conquerors journeyed across the Indian subcontinent. They collected spices, jewels, and stories. But they missed something far more valuable: ideas. Ideas so advanced that many historians today still struggle to explain how they were conceived so early. And yet, most of them have been quietly erased from popular memory. Imagine a dusty manuscript lying forgotten in a ruined monastery. Its pages brittle, its ink fading. Inside it, a blueprint, one that describes a concept modern engineers swear belongs to the last 100 years. But this text was written 2,000 years earlier. Strange, isn't it? But that's not even the most unsettling part, because scattered across ancient India are clues, carved into stone pillars, buried beneath temple floors, and hidden in the verses of old Sanskrit treatises. Clues that suggest ancient Indian thinkers discovered technologies and scientific principles long before the rest of the world even knew they were possible. Some of these discoveries changed civilizations. Others vanished mysteriously, leaving behind only whispers. But what if those whispers aren't accidents? What if they're warnings, or puzzles, or remnants of secrets too dangerous or too extraordinary to be forgotten? Tonight we follow those whispers. We step into lost libraries, walk through ruined laboratories, and search the ashes of civilizations that rose and fell with almost mythical brilliance. Because somewhere between the shadows of mythology and the light of recorded history lie the forgotten inventions of ancient India. And once you see what they created, you'll never look at history the same way again. But this is only the beginning. To understand these lost inventions, we must first return to a world that feels impossibly distant, yet eerily familiar. A world where knowledge was sacred, curiosity was a duty, and entire cities rose around centers of learning. This was ancient India, vast, diverse, and alive with ideas that simmered beneath the surface like molten gold. Picture the great plains of the Ganges, draped in morning mist. Farmers guide wooden plows through dark, rich soil. Merchants carry spices along riverboats that slide past forests where elephants move like silent guardians. But high above the hum of daily life stand monumental universities: Nalanda, Takshashila, Vallabhi, places where the air itself felt charged with thought. Here, thousands of students gathered from Greece, Persia, China, and beyond, seeking answers to questions no one else dared to ask. Inside their stone halls, the glow of oil lamps flickered across stacks of palm leaf manuscripts. Some students debated astronomy beneath open courtyards. Others studied medicine, dissecting plants and mapping remedies still used today. A hush always settled when a master scholar entered, robes drifting like a whisper of authority. No one expected what these minds would unlock, but their discoveries would ripple across centuries. The political landscape around them was a storm of shifting empires. The Mauryas, the Guptas, the Cholas dynasties rose with staggering power, then faded like shadows at dusk. Yet with every rise came investment in knowledge. With every fall came the risk of losing it forever. Sometimes kings protected scholars like prized jewels. Other times invading armies saw no value in ideas and burned entire libraries overnight. That single tension, creation and destruction, shaped how much of ancient India's brilliance survived. And within this world, innovation wasn't a luxury. It was survival. Engineers built dams and reservoirs to tame monsoon floods. Mathematicians mapped the movement of planets with astonishing precision. Metallurgists forged alloys so mysterious that modern scientists still struggle to reproduce them. Yet many of these breakthroughs vanished not because they failed, but because history failed them. Imagine walking through Takshashila during its golden age. You pass open classrooms where a young student scribbles numbers that look strangely modern. You hear a teacher speak of atoms, yes, atoms, long before the concept reached Europe. Down the hall, a surgeon prepares herbal anesthesia for a complex procedure. And in a small workshop behind the courtyard, an artisan molds a metal that refuses to rust even after centuries. But the most haunting question is this: how much was lost when these centers fell? When flames devoured manuscripts, when wars scattered scholars, when political chaos silenced voices that once echoed through these corridors. The world we are about to enter exists only in fragments, half-remembered verses, damaged scrolls, and artifacts dug from the earth. But when we place these fragments together, a startling truth emerges. Ancient India wasn't just a land of myths and kings. It was a crucible of invention, one that may have pushed the boundaries of science far earlier than we ever imagined. And the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. No one expected the inventions we're about to uncover, or the mysteries surrounding their disappearance. The deeper we travel into this world of discovery, the more unsettling the truth becomes. Because innovation in ancient India didn't emerge gently, it erupted in bursts, often triggered by conflict, competition, or moments of genius no one saw coming. And each breakthrough carried a ripple of tension that shaped the destiny of kingdoms. Our journey begins in a dimly lit workshop during the Gupta age. A blacksmith leans over a furnace, sparks climbing like fireflies around him. His hammer strikes molten metal with a rhythm that echoes through centuries. This isn't ordinary iron, it's the beginning of something extraordinary: wood steel, a metal so pure, so resilient, that it would later become the backbone of legendary Damascus swords. Warriors from distant empires begged for it. Some tried to steal it. Others launched campaigns to control the secret. But India guarded the technique fiercely, and that secrecy created enemies. In the bustling University of Nalanda, tension brews for another reason. Scholars there whisper about a mathematician who's just proposed a concept that defies tradition zero. The idea terrifies older teachers. How can nothing be something? How can a void have value? Yet this single invention will eventually reshape architecture, astronomy, accounting, and the digital age we live in. But back then it sparked heated debates that echoed through Nalanda's stone cloisters. Some feared its implications. Others saw it as a glimpse into the structure of the universe. Meanwhile, far to the south, Chola engineers wage a different kind of battle against nature itself. Monsoon rains threaten their thriving empire year after year. So they construct massive water tanks, dams, and irrigation channels with geometric precision. These structures are so advanced that modern hydrologists still marvel at their design. But the failure of even one reservoir could drown entire villages. Every stone laid carried risk. Every miscalculation meant disaster. Yet ambition pushed them forward. And then there were the surgeons. In the ancient city of Kashi, a physician named Sushruta taught students under the canopy of banyan trees. His teachings included delicate procedures: rhinoplasty, cataract removal, lithotomy performed with calm precision. Imagine the courage it took to attempt surgery without modern tools. Imagine the fear in a patient's eyes. Every operation was a test of skill, and every failure brought consequences. Rivals accused Sushruta of pushing boundaries too far. But he persisted, leaving behind a medical legacy that would take the world centuries to rediscover. But not all innovations were welcomed. Some inventions challenged kings and priests. Some upset the balance of power. A device that calculated planetary motion with uncanny accuracy threatened established rituals. A new method of smelting metal could shift economies overnight. And in a time when kingdoms thrived on tradition, too much change could be dangerous. Whispers of these dangerous ideas spread. Some scholars were celebrated, others were exiled. Some inventions were hoarded by rulers who saw them as weapons. Others were hidden away, buried in archives and forgotten temples, their creators erased from memory. And beneath all this progress lies a growing darkness, one that would soon swallow much of this brilliance. Because the more extraordinary the inventions became, the more coveted they grew, and the more vulnerable they were to destruction. The conflict wasn't just between scholars and skeptics. It was between knowledge and oblivion, between creation and the forces determined to extinguish it. And just when ancient India seemed on the edge of a scientific golden age, something happened that no one expected. Something that changed the fate of its greatest discoveries forever. Something shifts in the air as we enter the fourth chapter of this journey. It feels like walking into a grand library just moments before a storm shatters the windows. Everything is calm, yet everything is on the edge of collapse. This is the moment where brilliance meets danger, where inventions that once dazzled the world suddenly become mysteries wrapped in smoke and silence. The first tremor comes from the northwest. Armies march toward the subcontinent, waves of invaders, each carrying their own hunger for power. But beneath that hunger lies a deeper desire: knowledge. Rumors had already traveled along trade routes. Tales of strange devices, unbreakable metals, surgical techniques, astronomical tables accurate beyond measure. To invading generals, these were not scholarly curiosities. They were tools, weapons, advantages that could tilt the fate of empires. And so the burning began. Imagine the night sky glowing red as Nalanda's libraries catch fire. Thousands of manuscripts crackle and curl into ash. Scholars run through smoke-filled courtyards, clutching scrolls to their chests, desperate to save even a fragment of their heritage. Some succeed, most fail. The flames swallow entire lifetimes of work, calculations, diagrams, medicinal recipes, records that might have rewritten world history. And yet, a few pages survive, drifting through time like ghosts. But here's the unsettling part. Not all disappearances can be blamed on war. Some inventions vanish even earlier in times of peace, under circumstances that raise more questions than answers. Take the mysterious rust-proof iron pillar of Delhi. Forged over 1,600 years ago, it defies corrosion even today. Modern metallurgists examine it with microscopes, running tests again and again. The formula, the technique, still not fully understood. Why was this knowledge never scaled? Why does it appear in no surviving manual? Was it lost in the chaos of empire changes, or deliberately hidden because it gave one dynasty too much power? And then there are the stories, faint, fragmented, about flying machines described in ancient texts like the Vaimnika Shastra. Most scholars dismiss these as myths or ritual allegories. Yet there are puzzling details, references to energy, metals, propulsion-like mechanisms. The descriptions are scattered, inconsistent, often poetic. But what if some of these texts were copying older sources? What if they point to experiments whose records are now dust? It's impossible to say for sure, but the mystery lingers like an ember that refuses to die. In the south, ancient water systems suddenly stop being maintained. Perfectly designed reservoirs fall into ruin. Why? The Chola Empire had the expertise. They had the manpower. But some structures were abandoned while others were carefully preserved. Were these decisions political? Ritualistic? Or did certain innovations threaten the authority of those in power? Even the invention of zero, perhaps the most revolutionary idea in human thought, faced a strange fate. Some scholars protected it fiercely. Others feared it, calling it a concept that could undo creation if misunderstood. For centuries, the symbol itself traveled quietly through trade routes, carried not by kings, but by merchants and monks who recognized its power. Why did such a monumental breakthrough survive only by whispers? And the most haunting mystery of all emerges from the tunnels beneath forgotten temples. Archaeologists discover tools that shouldn't exist for their era. Alloys too advanced. Surgical instruments too precise. Geometric carvings aligned with astronomical events known only to expert mathematicians. But no records explain who built them, or why. It's as if entire chapters of scientific history were torn out, not gradually but abruptly. Every answer raises another question. Every discovery hints at something larger, an unseen pattern, a missing link, a silent force shaping what survives and what vanishes. Something happened in ancient India. Something that changed the trajectory of its knowledge forever. Was it war? Politics? Jealous rivalries? Or something much deeper, something that left clues scattered like puzzle pieces across centuries? We're getting closer to the heart of the mystery. And what comes next will reveal the consequences of these disappearances. Consequences that still shape our world today. As the smoke of lost empires settles and the ashes of burned manuscripts drift into silence, a clearer picture begins to take shape. This is the chapter where the shattered pieces of history finally fall into place. And what they reveal is both inspiring and heartbreaking. Because despite the destruction, despite the chaos, the brilliance of ancient India refused to vanish completely. It survived in fragments, carried by travelers, preserved in memory, and etched into the tools and ideas that shaped our modern world. Take mathematics, the quiet revolution that changed everything. The concept of zero did not disappear in the flames. Instead, it slipped into other civilizations like a whisper, crossing deserts and seas until it reached scholars in Baghdad. From there, it traveled to Europe, where it fueled the scientific revolution centuries later. Imagine that, a symbol once feared, once debated under the corridors of Nalanda, eventually unlocking the power behind computers, rockets, finance, and engineering. This single idea proved that even the smallest spark can ignite a global transformation. Root steel followed a similar path. Though the exact method of its creation vanished, the legend of its strength did not. Traders carried the metal across the ancient world, and foreign blacksmiths attempted again and again to replicate its impossible purity. They failed, but in their attempts, they advanced their own metallurgy, pushing forward the development of steel in Europe and the Middle East. And Indian innovation, even in absence, continued to shape global technology. And then there were the medical breakthroughs. Sushruda's teachings did not remain trapped in Kachi. His surgical techniques traveled through trade routes and monastic networks, influencing Greek, Persian, and later Islamic medical traditions. Even today, rhinoplasty, the very procedure he perfected, is a cornerstone of modern surgery. His legacy is living proof that ancient India's knowledge didn't disappear. It simply transformed, adapted, and resurfaced in ways no one expected. The water systems of the Cholas, once damaged and abandoned, are now studied by modern engineers. Their designs evolved into contemporary irrigation models. The geometry of their temples continues to guide architects. Astronomical calculations once recorded on palm leaves now align with modern measurements. Although many original manuscripts were lost, the knowledge embedded in architecture, art, and oral tradition endured. But the most revealing truth is this: history is not just a record of what survived, it is also a shadow of what was lost. And ancient India lost more than manuscripts. It lost voices, brilliant minds whose names vanished in the fires. Entire schools of thought disappeared. Technologies were buried under the rise and fall of empires. Yet despite this, the legacy of innovation persisted. Not because it was preserved perfectly, but because it was too revolutionary to stay dead. What remains today is a reconstructed tapestry woven from surviving verses, recovered artifacts, cultural influences, and scientific reverse engineering. When we study these fragments, a pattern emerges, one that reveals how ancient India shaped the foundation of modern science, medicine, mathematics, and engineering. The absence of complete records does not weaken this truth, it strengthens it. Because if the remnants alone are this extraordinary, imagine what the world might have learned had everything survived. And this leads us to a final realization, a realization both humbling and electrifying. When a civilization values knowledge, it rises. When it neglects it, it falls. But when knowledge is reborn, as India's was, it becomes unstoppable. Now we stand at the doorway of the final chapter, where these lessons echo across time and invite us to reflect on the legacy we inherit. As we reach the end of this journey, the echoes of ancient India linger in the air like the fading notes of a forgotten song. We've walked through ruined universities, watched brilliance rise and fall, and uncovered inventions that refuse to die. And now, standing at the threshold of history and memory, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The past is not gone. It continues to shape us, guide us, and whisper to us if we choose to listen. Think about it. A symbol as simple as zero helped launch the digital age. A medical technique developed under a banyan tree still saves lives in modern operating rooms. A metal forged in a humble workshop influenced technology across continents. These aren't just stories of old achievements. They are reminders of what human curiosity can accomplish, even when the world seems determined to erase it. But here's the haunting question: how much genius have we forgotten? How many inventions lie buried beneath the rubble of old kingdoms? How many breakthroughs were lost in the flames of libraries that will never return? And more importantly, what knowledge are we at risk of losing today? History isn't just a record of events, it's a mirror. It reflects our strengths, our failures, and our responsibility to protect the ideas that shape our future. The story of ancient India's forgotten inventions isn't just a tale of brilliance, it is a warning wrapped in wonder. A reminder that knowledge is fragile and progress survives only when we safeguard the minds that create it. So as you step away from this story, carry this thought with you. If fragments of a nearly forgotten civilization can influence the modern world so profoundly, imagine what could happen if we preserved every spark, every invention, every dream. And perhaps that is the real treasure hidden in ancient India's past. Not just the inventions themselves, but the enduring lesson that innovation is never truly lost, only waiting to be rediscovered by those who seek it. Thank you for traveling through time with me. And if you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to subscribe to History Hub for more cinematic stories that bring the ancient world back to life.